questions to you. Yes. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I hope my mom's watching. Is how did Vinay pitch this to you? I've heard it from Vinay, but I want to hear it from you.
When he expressed his wish for the first time that he wants to document because he believed that something is crumbling, something is happening, and rest of the world is not realizing and seeing things what is happening. They do see me, see my face, my anxieties, and some news about me, but they don't have any idea about what process we are going through. And I said to him that there is nothing exciting in my life. So you won't get any different shots and everything. So it's a boring life. Car comes out from my apartment, parked into my office, and come to my apartment. And I am packed in that small room. So he was very convinced, I wasn't convinced, that my life should be documented. I was little worried that I avoid myself to be glorified beyond a point, but time was such that I could not avoid that. So he came with camera, and he, Aman Sheikh, and Reshma, and many of us, talented guys, they become part of my life. The only regret is that they shot me in and out, but they didn't talk to me. Never. And they never responded when I was crying or telling in my car that, yaar ye nahi hoga, kya kare, koi sun nahi raha, no one is listening to me, who am I talking to? They were listening, but they were not responding.
And that actually leads to my question for you is, I know very deep filmmaking, but how do you resist that urge to, cross that boundary you've made for yourself and participate in something that's trying to pull you in all the time?
See, very honestly, I'm a very selfish filmmaker. So as much as it's a documentary filmmaking or any artistic endeavor is an exercise in patience. I know Ravish is saying that I didn't talk to him, but I didn't have the answers either. So besides, your discipline teaches you that you have to be quiet, you have to observe. When I'm shooting, even when I was shooting with Ravish and at NDTV and all his colleagues and family, you're always trying to see it from the perspective of the audience, and the audience doesn't talk back, right? So that you could have this experience, I have to make the sacrifice at that point, a brutal one, of not responding to somebody, even though it may be against your natural instinct. But that's filmmaking. So you have to, those are calls that you're constantly making. As a filmmaker, you're constantly trying to read the room. Not just in terms of shooting with Ravish, but shooting with others as well. Okay, Cub shooting. How many people are comfortable with Hindi?
I can translate.
I think everybody is comfortable with Hindi.
Okay, I'll try my best translating. So he's saying all the English that he brought with himself is now. He's spent it and disseminated it. So. And okay.
और मेरे हाँ कहने के पीछे भी मेरा एक स्वार्थ था कि मुझे 3 सिक्योरिटी गार्ड मिल गए.
So he found 3 security officers in the film crew. So that was one added advantage of saying yes to it.
मैं कहीं भी जाता था ये 3 लोग कैमरा लेकर चलते थे तो लोगों को लगता है ये कुछ दूसरा उन्हीं के जैसा है, बड़े साहब।
It gave him.
Yeah, बड़े साहब means बड़े साहब.
There is no bade sahab translation, but
Big boss.
that hanging around with these cool kids made him a cool kid. Last question before I move it out to the audience. You made a film very long ago about a jail officer, prison worker. And then you made a film about the man who's now the chief minister of Delhi. What about your protagonists attracts you for you to want to tell a story about them?
But the film about Arvind was co-directed by Khushbu, who's my producer on this film. I am fundamentally attracted to people who raise their hand and say, I disagree. People who are always going like, nahi. That is for me a great conversation starter. I am working in non-fiction in a country wherein I could just make fiction very easily, have many more friends and have a much more illustrious career. But somewhere very early on in my career, I made a choice of saying no, I won't do that. So it's the gadflies who I'm attracted to. The people who find themselves in big setups, who choose to go against the current. And my life, the films that I've made, An Insignificant Man was about an early phase of idealism also in my life, when we were trying to figure out what the possibilities of idealism was, and when it's confronted with real world politics. This film, when I approached Ravish, and I was personally in a phase wherein I was questioning my own relevance. I do that as a hobby. And really wondering if I should be making films anymore, making the kind of films I make. Watching the news was in general driving me insane. And not just here, not just in India, across the world. Most of my friends were like, we don't watch the news, it's not good for my mental health. So the experience of watching the news was very, very anxiety ridden. But the films that I was seeing, or the newsroom dramas that I used to see on screen, they didn't reflect that anxiety of consuming news. So in Ravish, I found a protagonist who was going through a similar phase that I was. And he, unlike, ये थोड़ा अजीब है उनके सामने बात करना, like he's not here.
It's strange to speak about him in front of him as if he's not here.
But unlike a lot of, like for example, the idea of saying no, unlike most Indian news anchors or news anchors everywhere who are busy justifying the audience, saying the audience wants it, hence we do it. And they'll have, they'll do whatever it takes to feed that logic. Ravish goes on air and chastises his audiences and says, you are not doing enough. What are you doing, right? He chastises his audiences for knowing better. And people have very strong responses to that. But I think that's a good plot. That's where my filmmaking instinct comes in, and I go like, okay, there's something happening, there's a larger story. And that's where I dive in with the cameras.
This is a whole different story, but your partner taught me in college, and that is exactly what she did. She taught us to question whatever came our way.
मैंने सिर्फ किताब पढ़ना नहीं सिखाया, सवाल करना सिखाया और हजारों लोगों के बीच बोलना सिखा दिया.
So he's talking about his partner. She just didn't teach him to read books, but she taught you to question and
speak in front of thousands.
Well, that's true.
Thousands and thousands are pointing their gun towards me. And then it's a test that आप बोल सकते हैं कि नहीं बोल सकते. पर ये जो फिल्म है, मुझसे विनय ने पूछा कि कोई आपसे पूछ लेगा कि ये फिल्म आपको कैसी लगी तो क्या कहें.
So Vinay asked him, Vinay asked him, what will you say when people ask you if you like the film or not?
मैंने विनय को वहाँ तो जवाब नहीं दिया, लेकिन यहाँ देना चाहता हूँ. इस फिल्म को मैं अच्छी कैसे कर सकता हूँ? जो आपने देखा है वो छोटा सा हिस्सा देखा है, सिर्फ मेरा नहीं है. बहुत से ऐसे पत्रकारों का जीवन तबाह हो गया। कम पैसे में कई साल तक उन्होंने काम किया। एनडीटीवी और एनडीटीवी के बाहर के भी पत्रकारों की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ। जिससे मैं गुजर रहा था उससे वो भी गुजर रहे थे। तो मैं उनकी तमाम पत्रकारों की, जो थोड़े बहुत हैं लेकिन करना चाहते थे पत्रकारिता, मैं उस कहानी का एक किरदार बन गया। लेकिन मैं इसे अच्छा नहीं कह सकता। मैं नहीं चाहता कि ऐसी कोई फिल्म बने जहां हम इतने प्यारे देश को, हमने, हमारा जो लोकतंत्र है, डेमोक्रेसी है, बहुत ही अर्जित लोकतंत्र है, अर्न्ड है, और इसको हम दिवाली के दिन जुए में उड़ा रहे हैं और रौंदते जा रहे हैं अपने अपने बायसेस के साथ, और देखते जा रहे हैं। बहुत अच्छा मीडिया तो यहाँ का भी नहीं है, अमेरिका का, लेकिन मुझे यहाँ का कॉन्ट्रडिक्शंस मालूम है। लेकिन वो लड़ाई तो हमें खुद से लड़नी है उस जगह की, और उसे इस देश के, हिंदुस्तान के ही लोग लड़ेंगे, हिंदुस्तान के ही अखबारों को खड़ा करना पड़ेगा। पर ये कहानी मुझे उम्मीद की जरूर लगती है। अच्छी नहीं है मैं नहीं कह सकता, पर इस कहानी से एक उम्मीद तो है। आपने इसमें सौरभ शुक्ला को दिखा, लेकिन कुछ दिन पहले मैं अपने गांव गया था। बहुत सारे ऐसे यूट्यूबर से मिला जो अब उम्मीदों से लैस हो चुके हैं। उन्हें पता है कि उन्हें जेल में डाल दिया जाएगा, ईडी से बच गए तो कहीं और फंसा दिए जाएंगे, कैमरा छीन लिया जाएगा, फोन छीन लिया जाएगा। लेकिन उस दिन के पहले तक वो पत्रकारिता कर रहे हैं, और उनका चेहरा कभी दिखता नहीं है, क्योंकि वो अब अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर के बहुत कम मजदूरी पे काम करने वाले मजदूर बन चुके हैं वो, इसलिए आपको नजर नहीं आता है। लेकिन इसी निराशा के दौर में कुछ फूल खिल रहे हैं।
I understand, but why don't you start and I'll fill in the gaps.
So when I speak as Ravish. When Vinay came and asked me, Vinay asked me, what would you say to people if they say whether you like this film or not? And I chose to, I didn't answer him then, but I'm answering, but I'd like to answer here, that it's difficult for me to see this film and say that I like it, because it's not just my story, but the story of thousands of small journalists, some of who are working within NDTV, some of them who are working outside NDTV, whose lives have been at stake for the last couple of years. Ever since they started doing this, they have been working at very small pace with very meager resources. So you see me on screen, but there are so many like me out there. And it's difficult for me to say that I like this film, because I don't want more films like this to be made, wherein you see such a beautiful country, you see such high ideals being lost and crushed. However, in this space of despair and sadness, I do find hope in young YouTube journalists, people who are putting their own, people who are offering, again working within very limited resources, but they're becoming authors, they're taking on the establishment. They are choosing to do journalism outside that of organized setups and big corporations. And there is, even in this sort of grim scenario, there
Some
are
flowers are blooming.
some flowers are blooming.
And which is why this is a film of hope, and so it's bigger than good or bad, and like and dislike.
And that it's a hard-earned democracy.
And it's a
And
very
that it's a hard-earned
ये एक संयोग है, कोइंसिडेंस है कि ये फिल्म जिन कहानियों को लेकर आगे बढ़ रही है, जो कहानियां हैं, उसकी एक साइकिल आज पूरी होती है। सेबी ने अलाउ कर दिया है अदानी साहब को एनडीटीवी खरीदने के लिए। तो सेठ के पास बहुत पैसा है, बस मैं नहीं हूँ। तो there is
it's quite serendipitous that this is how this film screening is happening today, because NDTV is currently in the midst of a hostile takeover bid, which has, as of today, been approved by Indian regulatory bodies. So the billionaire who's buying it has money and power on his side, but not me. Thank you, Ravish.
I can, yeah.
एक छोटी सी बात बहुत मुश्किल लड़ाई एनडीटीवी ने भी लड़ी, आपने देखा होगा। हमारे बहुत सारे कॉलीग, बहुत टैलेंटेड कॉलीग धीरे धीरे जाते रहे, आसान नहीं था तब जाना उस जगह पे जहाँ किसी को जाने नहीं दिया जाता था। ठीक है, नाराज है, 4 दिन के लिए चले जाओ, 5वें दिन आ जाना। तो सब गए, धीरे धीरे चले गए, और ये न्यूज़ आपके लिए एक नॉर्मल रूटीन कॉर्पोरेट हैंडओवर की खबर, पर वो है नहीं। तो लड़ा सब ने, बहुत लोग जिनके नाम आप नहीं जानते हैं, लेकिन इस फिल्म के कारण आप उन्हें देख रहे हैं कि किस तरह से लड़ रहे हैं। जब स्वरलिपि गई, when she left, I lost my soul. So मुझे समझ नहीं आया कि मैं कैसे उस दफ्तर में फिर जा पाऊंगा, लेकिन जैसे हर कोई आ रहा था, कुछ मिल नहीं रहा था, कुछ उम्मीद नहीं थी, लेकिन फिर भी आ रहा था। तो कहानी यही है कि अपने आप को रोकिए मत, जब तक कोई सेठ पूरे न्यूयॉर्क को खरीद नहीं तब तक न्यूयॉर्क में घूमना फिरना चलना दौड़ना छोड़िए मत।
Blanked out. How did we start?
That was hard to get here for NDTV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
He
people
was
would
saying
leave
that
for 4 days, they would fight and then come back on the 5th day.
NDTV itself has had a very tough journey as a corporation, as a company, and they have seen very difficult times too. Also, people within NDTV, it's been very, very difficult for them to do various beats, people you don't see within the film, and it's been a hard couple of years. So while this news of the hostile takeover may appear as routine business news, it is not so. It's quite important that we are able to somehow, we understand the cost. Okay, I don't remember what you said, but I'm just
People fought the fight.
People-
और जब वो छोड़ते थे तो उनको दुख हुआ, और जब when Swalipi left,
When
he
Swalipi
lost
left,
his
he was
soul.
completely heartbroken, and it's like his soul left his body. So it's moments like that, and the person who's screaming is Vinay Kumar. He's a journalist whose work introduced me to Ravish, who wrote many years ago about Ravish. So I'm very, this room, I have so much respect for a lot of people who are here. Amongst the people,
हमारे जिला के होंगे।
if I may just say something very small, we've made this film and Ravish is here, and at times we feel like, being an idealist today, being hopeful today is a costly enterprise. Hope is not cheap. It's not vulgar. You have to preserve it. You have to nourish it. You have to fight for it. When I was making this film, I was hoping that somehow it will hold the hands of people who feel similarly. I'm very happy that some of my idols are here. There's Maxine from Dog Society, without whom this film would have been possible. There's Anurima, Shefali, Jehan, Brenda. We are here because there is a community. There are people out there who have held my hand and who have walked this path. The tallest amongst them, without a doubt, is sitting at the back in the last row. His name is Anand Patwardhan.
और क्या हुआ है?
Anand Patwardhan introduced me to the art of documentary. So, if it wasn't for people like Anand Patwardhan, I wouldn't be here. I just wanted to say that because जितना अकेले हम सोचते हैं कि हम हैं, शायद हम उतने अकेले नहीं हैं. There are lots of people in this room who I believe are on the same voyage, and I hope you have meaningful conversations before you leave.
Yeah, what I said was, you're perhaps not as lonely as you think you are.
जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो यहाँ है.
Questions.
belief in
So
their-
we can just. I'm sorry. We can just take one and no question. I'm not taking one.
I don't know. पूछिए मैं सुन लूँगा पूछिए.
Namaste.
हाँ.
Thank you for the wonderful film. I'm a scientist at Mount Sinai, so मेरा क्वेश्चन जर्नलिस्ट या फिल्म मेकर जैसा तो नहीं रहेगा, पर मैं जैसे कोई भी फिल्म भी देख रहा हूँ या मूवी भी देखता हूँ तो उसे मैं भारत के परिदृश्य में देखने की कोशिश करता हूँ. कोई कहानी अगर फिर से पढ़ता हूँ, जैसे अकबर बीरबल की कहानी है, तो बंदा रात भर नदी में खड़ा रहता है ठंडे में, और अगले दिन उससे पूछा जाता है कि आखिर रात भर कैसे खड़े रह पाए, तो वो बोलता है कि वो जो दूर दीपक दिख रहा था उसके सहारे में रात भर खड़ा रह गया. अब इसे अगर अभी के परिदृश्य में रखें कि अंधकार इज लाइक अपना डेमोक्रेसी का जो हालत हो रहा है, तो वन इज व्हाट बीरबल डज नेक्स्ट डे. हाँ, तो एक जर्नलिस्ट को उस बीरबल की तरह शायद होना चाहिए था, जो सत्ता को सही तरीके से बता सकता था कि हाँ, जो आप डिसीजन ले रहे हो गलत है. तो रवीश कुमार जी को वैसे आप देखना चाहेंगे, या फिर और अगर थोड़ा डायरेक्ट जाए तो रवीश कुमार जी उस नदी में खड़े उस गरीब किसान की तरह हैं, या थर्ड पार्ट या किसान की तरह है जो डेमोक्रेसी दूर दीपक की तरह डेमोक्रेसी साइड दिख रहा है, या रवीश कुमार जी वो दीपक हैं जिसके सहारे बाकी लोग अभी भी उस नदी में खड़े हैं कि सुबह हो जाएगी और हम लोग बाहर निकल सकेंगे.
He is a scientist, and so his question is, he tries to see things from the perspective and context of India, and he would like to understand how I see Ravish, or Ravish sees himself in the larger context of whether is Ravish the medium or the spectator or the power to be, that
The
yeah.
hope.
Or the hope. Yeah.
छोटे में जवाब देगा. इतने बड़े देश की लड़ाई के लिए और लड़ने के लिए कभी एक आदमी बहादुर नहीं होता है. वो काफी होता है एक आदमी, लेकिन सारी उम्मीदें उसी से नहीं करनी चाहिए. जब आप ऐसा करते हैं तो आप अपने डर को प्रोसेस नहीं करते. मुझे जो बात ठीक लगी कि इस फिल्म ने मुझे दिखाया कि मैं बहुत वल्नरेबल इंसान हूँ और रोज अपने डर को क्रॉस करता हूँ. तो आप लोग भी ये जो डराया गया है ईडी के नाम पर, वीजा नहीं देने के नाम पर, घेर कर मार देने के नाम पर, तो इस तरह के डर से एक एक कदम आगे बढ़ते हुए जैसे मैं चल रहा हूँ उसको पार कीजिए.
एकदम सही.
दूर दीपक मत देखिए, अपने कदमों के नीचे देखिए कि वो जमीन आपसे खींच ली गई है. और जिस हिंदुस्तान को आप जानते हैं वो हिंदुस्तान अब नहीं है. कोई ऐसा फर्जी एग्जामिनेशन हुआ होगा, मैं तो नहीं जानता कि दुनिया के और कौन से देश उस एग्जाम में बैठे थे जिसमें पास होकर हम विश्व गुरु बनने वाले हैं. आप जानते हैं तो मुझे जरूर बताइए. इसलिए निराश होने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, बेवजह डरने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. थोड़ी थोड़ी अपने डरों से बाहर आइए, अपने अपने घरों से बाहर आइए, और आप देखिए तो बाग लहलहाने के लिए तैयार है. यही मैं यहाँ आकर कहना चाहता हूँ.
That's been good. No, I can give it a shot. I've subtitled the entire, not me, but Reshma. So, I think it's important to understand that. How did we start? Yeah. For as long as this dialogue is centered, say for today, it's centered around Ravish, right? And we're trying to find more meaning or trying to understand Ravish from various lenses as some sort of savior for democracy and somebody who will take our hopes forward. It's a hope that is going to capsize sooner than later. For as long as we continue believing that individuals will be our savior, that is by itself a fallacy. We reduce the fight to an individual because we are somehow not able to process our own fears, because we are not processing our own complex emotions, and because we are not embracing complexity with regards to solutions. We tend to believe in simple solutions, in trying to look at one leader, one political party, one news organization, one journalist as some sort of a savior, and then come up with a multiple sort of analysis around that. We have to step away from that. Instead of looking at parables, instead of looking at some sort of a
ray of hope,
ray of hope and trying to analyze it from various angles, we must understand the grounds that we are losing from beneath our feet. There is a very active role that citizens must play in reclaiming the ground that is being taken away from them beneath their feet, and it has to be done via all of us, or at least those who care, overcoming small fears in big ways every day. You have to walk towards what is calling out to you. You don't need to run towards it, you don't need to snatch it, you don't need to dive at it. But it's a very slow, steady walk. In trying to see things from the perspective of India and trying to say India the superpower, those are sort of myth-laden and story-laden debates are attractive, but they are simple. And we have to walk away from simplicity and embrace courage.
Go back home, tell your friends and family that the film screens again tomorrow at 4:35 p.m. right here.
और अगर आपने किसी ने वीडियो बनाया है फिल्म का तो मत
Yeah,
आप सभी आए, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सभी का। बहुत अच्छा लगा कि आप लोग आए और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा।
Portions of the film, please do not post that video anywhere, and the rest of it you saw from the glow on his face. He's very thankful that he's here tonight. Thank you.